if you've heard about Omar Abdullah has been giving interviews for the last 2 3 days to various channels, and he has said that Pahalgam attack has undone years of work, both in terms of economy and diplomacy, and it has given a jolt to the state's tourism, which it had recovered after a long time, and now it has allowed Pakistan to flag Kashmir in the international community again. So basically, what he means to say is that this Pahalgam attack has enabled the Kashmir issue to be internationalized. Now, how long can India continue to say that no, as far as our relationship with Pakistan is concerned, whatever little is there is just a bilateral issue? That bilateralism, that element of bilateralism, don't you think has disappeared now after the Pahalgam attack?
Well, therefore, I'm very, shall we say, concerned about the extremely blatant and brazen display of intermediation being done by Donald Trump. Please let
Yes.
us not take Mr. Trump casually. Remember, this government actually, or rather the political party in power, has been a very strong advocate for Mr. Trump in the past. Even campaigned with saying "Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar," and therefore now for them to say, "Listen, Trump is whimsical, unpredictable, irrational, unstable," is not an argument that holds. Like it or not, yes, Trump is indeed very capricious and is capable of being, frankly, ridiculously volatile. But the truth of the matter, Nilu, is that he's the president of the United States, and you have to worry about what is he going to say next or what is he going to do next. And Omar Abdullah is absolutely right. Today, India is a victim of cross-border terrorism. And have you noticed? Donald Trump doesn't even make a mention of that word. He talks about Pakistan being a great friend. Don't forget, he talks about Mr. Modi and Mr. Sharif having dinner together. That's what he said in Riyadh. And
Yes.
and the United States is instrumental in the 2.4 billion IMF loan that Pakistan has got, which will help it stave off its own economic troubles. So America is not somebody that India can truly rely on. And I can tell you the worry that I would say any diplomatic personnel will tell you. If you look at what has happened over the last couple of days, Russia has been neutral. Don't forget, Russia and China are an axis. And if China is on the side of Pakistan, which is hardly a public secret, Russia has basically stayed off. I mean, they can make a statement, but it has no real impact. So you have Russia, which is neutral, in the past, your most reliable defense ally, even a geopolitical partner. You have America, which is absolutely opportunistic, cannot be relied upon. You have China, extremely hostile. And if you look at our neighborhood, Bangladesh, once literally the one big support that we could count on in our neighborhood, is now openly hostile, right? So I think if you look at the global south as well, there have not been many vocal voices in our support. I think Indian diplomats have a hard task ahead, because this whole strategy that we have adopted for whatever reason of possibly it's all coming together, the way we responded on Ukraine. I think even a lot of countries in Europe today are skeptical about our international viewpoints, because there is no denying, and it's a hard truth, that we were happy to ignore human rights and some serious cross-border aggression from Russia, and for cheap Russian oil. So there will be, even on Gaza, for example, we have been so aggressively pro-Israel that you have today South Africa and even Brazil taking greater leadership on the Palestinian issue. So I think India finds itself in a very awkward spot. These things never get debated on a TV channel, unfortunately, because we are very always celebrating that this is the greatest government in the world and
And
the world is
now
going to.
you were just talking about the celebration, and with that, I was reminded that BJP is now planning a big Tiranga Yatra for 11 days,
Mhm.
which has just started yesterday, and they will go from one district to the other in solidarity with the armed forces. And what I'm getting to know of the record from the BJP leaders is that without sounding triumphalistic, they will try and express solidarity with the armed forces. What do you think
Mhm.
is the main intention behind this BJP's Tiranga Yatra? Will they not capitalize it for Bihar elections now, or is it happening because they know that there is a loss of face for Prime Minister Modi, there is a loss of face for BJP because so much of negative coverage has gone when it comes to trolling of Vikram Misri, trolling of his daughters, trolling of Sophia Qureshi. I mean, you just think of it, and there are negative coverages falling, from one corner to the other. So, which means that there has been a bad management of whatever has come out of this whole ceasefire and conflict which happened between India and Pakistan, and apparently it looks like a strategic failure.
Nilu, I'm glad you asked me that question. As somebody who has been in politics for a long time, and I intend to be there for
Therefore,
all the time going forward, I'm extremely appalled, and I find BJP's Tiranga Yatra, etc., happening when you still find that the embers of the entire exchanges at the border probably haven't even died. And for the BJP to run a campaign, there cannot be nothing more disgusting, immoral, and unethical. I think I need to really call this out. Please remember, Nilu, I don't know how many people in India are even talking about it. Omar mentioned that in his interview to Rajdeep Sardesai yesterday. Then why are we not even talking about what happened in Poonch, for example, or Rajouri or Uri, where we were attacked, right? I mean, I don't know what the final count is, but many people died in Poonch from different communities of our country. And while it's correct that we had every right to be outraged at the horrific terror attack in Pahalgam that killed innocent tourists, why are we ignoring those who live near the LOC or near the borders? I mean, I have never understood this peculiar duplicitous and dichotomy in the way we grieve one time and refuse to grieve the other. I mean, these are innocent people who died when the Pakistanis shelled innocent people. So I think, for the BJP to run a Tiranga campaign, however they're trying to shroud it for the Indian armed forces, let me tell the BJP through your channel, everybody in this country is very proud of the Indian armed forces, BJP. What are you talking about? I mean, you are in power. Just because Mr. Modi has the right to command the defense forces of this country doesn't mean that people in our country don't stand with the Indian armed forces. People have a problem with the politicians, not with the armed forces. They are the ones who fight for our territorial
So, but
security.
BJP now trying to regain its lost credibility through the armed forces, and which is why this Tiranga Yatra from one district to the other.
Well, let me tell you one thing, Nilu, that the BJP ran an ad campaign even before the ceasefire. I remember tweeting about it. It was a digital campaign. Anybody can search it on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or wherever you like. And I was astonished at the vulgarity and the crudity and the cheapness of running a pro government campaign at a time and running the opposition, by the way, and trying to claim credit and make a conflict into some kind of a political capital. I mean, I'll have to eventually say this, Nilu, whether it's Tiranga Yatra or whatever they call it. I feel that the BJP needs to apologize actually to the people of this country. I would have liked it if in Mr. Modi's speech there was remorse at what happened in Pahalgam. There was an apology that, listen, we failed in Pahalgam. Please do not forget, I was in Pahalgam, by the way, just a few days before the entire massacre happened. I had been in Jammu and Kashmir for almost a week to 10 days before
No,
that.
but Sanjay, you or I may call it a failed Pahalgam, and the attack which was mounted looks like a failed offensive. But BJP is trying to make it look like a victory, and in fact, you have victory playing out on both sides. Pakistan is also celebrating its victory. That look, we've hit India very badly, and so is the BJP celebrating victory. That look, we have won. This is
Well,
what
let
Prime
me
Minister address to the nation said.
Yeah, both sides are playing a massive propaganda war. Okay, but I think what we should remember that we are so far a democracy, and in a democratic environment, one of the thumb rules is to be transparent. And one of the thumb rules is when somebody is critical of you, you stop calling them anti-national. I mean, the whole conversation has become such today that if you everyone has to start their statement by saying we support the government, we are entirely with you, and then they kind of, if some of them have the intrepidity or the courage, then they're saying, well, these are the places where the government failed. Can you imagine that a couple of YouTubers, I think, had FIRs lodged against them because they questioned the government? I mean, how absolutely preposterous is that? So here is my point, Neelu, that end of day, the role of India's television industry has been so abysmal, so pathetic, and absolutely atrocious that I think they have ended up damaging our country's entire brand. Because, the role of mainstream media is extremely crucial, especially in times and in terms of a military conflict. Now, here is my larger point, that I hope that the people of this country can see through the attempt of any political party, in this case, the ruling party of India, which is trying to once again whip up nationalism, again, do that whole muscular, hyper nationalistic pitch, and try and say that, we have, kind of been triumphant. Listen, we have sent a message to Pakistan, nobody's denying that. But this is a time for a very sober introspection, because the truth is that we lost people in a terror attack in Pahalgam, and go back to the trigger of what has led us to this conflict, which is that there was an intelligence and security failure in Pahalgam. And who takes accountability for that? Because they don't report to Omar Abdullah, they report to the lieutenant governor, who reports to Amit Shah in New Delhi. And who has said anything about that at all? I mean, that to me is the biggest worry that comes out of the last couple of
No, the
days.
people have forgotten that question about accountability, security lapse, intelligence failure. Now the entire narrative is hinging on what Modi is telling the nation, what Trump is telling the world about his mediation, about the ceasefire. The entire narrative has shifted to that. So obviously, the opposition is also questioning Modi as to why Trump is mediating, and nobody's asking for accountability. Nobody is talking about the security lapse, not even the opposition.
But I want to make one point here, and I hope your program will be seen by the Congress party as well, which I do support and I will continue to support. But I'm very disappointed that the leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, hasn't come forward and actually spoken to the people of India. You can support the government, one should, we all do, but at the same time, you need to point out what the government needs to do to strengthen our border security, to improve local intelligence, to ensure that we are able to actually create a stronger deterrent against a cross border attack from Pakistan. Remember one thing, Nilu, for India, you like it or not, I don't know how many defense experts will say it. Pakistan's terror infrastructure is so big that we remain susceptible and vulnerable to these attacks at all times. Pakistan uses terror as a strategic asset. Is that going away anywhere? Not at all. Even if we had supposedly bombed out complete Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba, they would have re-emerged. They would have re-recruited because they get funding from the ISI and support from the Pakistan army. What I'm disappointed about is that this was a good time for Rahul to be out there in questioning the government. So you can support the government, you can also question it. You need to be engaging with people. And I think this is something that the Congress needs to do. You can't afford to kind of tell yourself that's an either or. This is the time to actually have conversations on how do we strengthen our internal security. I'll give you one very important point here. We talk about nuclear deterrence, which India and Pakistan both recognize we are in the nuclear powers, and we need to know where to draw the line in the sand. But the truth, Nilu, is this, that the only deterrence India has is local intelligence and a strong architecture that protects our people from cross border attacks. It's as simple as that. If we got these two right, well, there will be an occasional crack, maybe unfortunate, but that might happen. But you will essentially be sure that if you are constantly robust and alert, your systems will work for you. That's the thing that we got to that to work that we need to really focus on. Shouldn't the opposition be doing that? I believe so. I think opposition has handled itself with a lot of grace, with a lot of dignity. I think there are a lot of people from the opposition who have raised questions, but I think there is a time for the leader of the opposition to be a lot more visible than he has been.
Absolutely. So, in the end, Sanjay, talking about this Pahalgam attack and the manner in which Operation Sindoor was conducted, has it resulted for the last 6, 7 days, whatever we've seen, has this resulted in the big loss of face for Prime Minister Modi and also for the BJP?
Well, I can tell you the political repercussions are managed through, again, through perception management. And the BJP has every right, as a political party, it is a fundamental right, even if they do a Tiranga Yatra just days after the ceasefire. I consider that to be extremely unprincipled, in my opinion. But if they are able to successfully uh, manage public opinion, or change the entire perception about what we have done, good for them. I think the real issue really for us is, are we going to be safe? Uh, do our Is our army equipped with the best? Uh, I know they're the best that we have in terms of people, motivated talent.
And in
They're
fact,
always.
sorry to interrupt you, Sanjay, and we have not discussed so far, like we had so many things to talk about, that how many casualties have been there on our side, we do not know. How many missiles or Rafales or fighter jets we have lost, we do not know. And the moment you start questioning of that, according to whatever the international media is reporting, you are trolled. I mean, I was one of them who was trolled big time on this particular issue. So I mean, who is going to divulge what has really happened? And is it not part of any offensive that you also try and calibrate what you have lost in terms of the physical infrastructure, in terms of human lives? Nobody's talking about how many lives have gone away in Uri and Poonch. Nobody's talking about it. In fact, I was seeing those devastating pictures from Kashmir. Media is not covering it.
You know something, Nilu, that's exactly my worry. That the number of casualties in Poonch or Rajouri or Uri have not even been talked about. And I just don't understand what is the reason why the media has blacked it out. I sense is largely an account of some degree of pressure. The first day when those shellings happened, the number of injured was running into a staggering number. I hope those numbers haven't become casualties. But this is exactly what I said at the very beginning. The advantage of a democracy is transparent conversations. I'm not saying that you make disclosures on items of security that need to be kept confidential. But today a lot of people are relying on international media to know what's going on, and that's a very sorry statement on the state of Indian media, which is seen to be absolutely jingoistic. I saw some of the TV channels, unfortunately, the way they have conducted themselves, they have made a laughing stock, not just of their own channels, but of the government, because clearly the government seems to have, allowed them to have a free hand. Is that information warfare? I don't think it is. The government, I think, banned certain YouTube channels, and the big mainstream media, which attracts the maximum eyeballs, were given a free license to do what they wanted to do. This just doesn't make any sense at all. I need to make one point before we end up. Vikram Mishri, the foreign secretary, and I were batchmates together in XLRI, decades ago. A wonderful guy. I need to say that in his support. A decent man. I think a voice of sanity. Someone who was handling the press briefings with such, what I would call is professionalism, with the right kind of nuance, with the correct articulation. It's a hot seat. It's a hot job. And to troll him, I think these are moments where you find that we don't come across as people who are, shall we say, having the kind of honest conversations that are, done in a meaningful way, where we are mutually respectful. I think that is really vanishing, and I do hope that the powers that be know how to stand up for their own man. I would have liked it if the entire Ministry of External Affairs or senior political leaders had stood up for Vikram and said, stop this.
Absolutely. And it was really unfortunate to see him being trolled, his daughter being trolled, and so was Sophia Qureshi, for that matter, for being a Muslim and the way she was trolled. It's really unfortunate. But yes,
And by
lots
a
of
BJP leader. by a
Yes,
BJP
by
leader
a
from Madhya.
BJP leader. Yes, Vijay
Can you
Shah.
imagine that? I mean,
Yes,
for the life of me, therefore, I believe that the Indian armed forces deserve much more respect. I think salute to them, because I think our political leaders are failing them. The BJP's Tiranga Yatra should be about apology and not about triumphalism.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Sanjay. Always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.